All right, let me get this. There we go. Call the meeting to order, and all key members of council. We have Councilor Tonio, who's off on personal leave this evening. And to the members, any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda is presented to you this evening. Hearing none, we do have delegations, and I'll give the opportunity Mr. Sean Firth, our Director of Communications, to introduce our guests.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Good evening. As you recall, last July, we had a presentation from Prairie Group Consulting with Susan and Andy are back with us tonight. Susan Chase and Andy Will. They did a presentation to council on an IT service review, and out of that review came quite a number of recommendations, defining resources, IT governance, the need for more training, GIS open data, coming up with a cloud strategy, cybersecurity risk assessments and awareness, which we've done more of this fall. We've launched a help desk in October with over 500 tickets in the last 8 weeks. So that's working well. And so all good things came out of that review. And in the first 6 months subsequent to that review being done, we've started to implement a number of their recommendations. A couple recommendations also was a business continuity and disaster recovery plan, and also a digital strategy. And this summer, we were fortunate to get some funding approved under the Municipal Modernization Program under Intake 2 for both of those projects. So this evening, Susan and Andy are with us to discuss all the work they've been doing thus far on our digital strategy. And it's more or less an interactive session here tonight. So we're looking for a lot of input from council to help us with the roadmap going forward with respect to the digital strategy. So with that, we welcome Susan and Andy this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean, very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Really nice to be back here again. I am just going to share my screen so that I can bring up our presentation. And share it with you. Okay, so if somebody could just nod, Andy, I've got the screen up properly. Okay, great. So Sean did an amazing introduction there. So I'm just going to forget all of that part that I was going to talk about why we're here and everything like that, and just kind of get right down to it. So Andy and I are here to talk to you and really to get your feedback about digital strategy and all that that's going to mean. I'm going to share a few slides with you to talk to you a little bit about what that does mean and why it's important, we think, to get something done. So I think the first question I usually get asked is, well, what's a digital strategy and how is that different from an IT service review or an IT plan? So really a digital strategy actually takes a different look at technology and how technology is being used. It builds on the stronger foundations that we were able to identify through the IT service review, some of the improvements that have been made, but also some of the really good work that had already been done. And it identifies ways to really further leverage technology to deliver even more online services and to really look at ways of how technology can improve processes by looking at it through that digital lens. Really, developing a digital strategy helps the organization to really identify opportunities for digital transformation with that customer first focus. So I'm going to skip that because that's about us. And I just, the boss says we have to put those in there. So I'll just leave it there. So really we'll want to talk about what are some of the reasons why we really want to go digital. And just to summarize it, there's these 5 key reasons we think. Customer expectations have changed. We've talked about this before with you and you've heard it before. Certainly the pandemic has highlighted everybody's gone online now, whether it's using Amazon more than ever before or in these times of lockdowns, Netflix and all the different streaming services. People are expecting services to be available online with any business that they do. And with government, it's no different. We really have the expectation that we should be able to do business with our government, no matter what level, online as much as possible. We know that service delivery is cheaper online. Just a few stats to share with you. A face-to-face transaction can often cost anywhere between $12 to $30 per transaction, whereas through Canada Post, like mail delivery or anything like that, it's on average about $15 per transaction. Whereas a web transaction, we know in Canada, is actually less than $1 to serve that particular process. So service delivery can be a lot cheaper online. You don't have all the people involved, all the places having to travel, that sort of thing. So we know that service delivery is actually cheaper online. There's still always those other channels, and we recognize, and I'll mention it a couple times through this presentation, we're not eliminating those other channels of service. We know there are people in the communities who still want to have face-to-face. We know council still wants to have face-to-face interactions with people. So we're not even remotely suggesting that we get rid of that. It's just about identifying those processes that can go online. Digitization really drives efficiency. And I say this because with most digitization of processes, we go through a process review and we evaluate the process and break it down step by step and really ask the questions, why are we doing this? How come this is happening? Who's getting this? What are we doing with it? And by doing that, we're able to identify where there are opportunities for improvement, and whether the opportunity is by adding technology or maybe eliminating or changing the process, we know improvements can be made. Over the last couple of years, we at Perry Group, we've done a lot of this business process review, thanks to the Modernization Fund, really. But we've done over 200 different process reviews across over 20 different organizations. And we've really applied that digital lens because we are a technology company. And we're typically finding, and I'm not exaggerating this at all, between $20,000 to $80,000 worth of efficiencies, whether that's cost savings, cost avoidance, anything like that, through these process reviews. It's quite remarkable, really. So we do know digitization drives efficiency. Of course, security and risk management, I don't need to talk about that. It's big, it's out there. Every business is facing it, government and public, private business. We know municipalities, governments being targeted, we have to address it. And disaster recovery and risk management, we have to address it. And of course, Tecumseh has already agreed to that. And that's, as Sean mentioned, we've got that other project underway right now, taking a look at disaster recovery and how we can further enhance all of these things around security and risk mitigation. And then finally, another reason to go digital is really all about the staff. You want to be able to attract the right people. You want, when you hire an HR specialist, you want them to deal with human resource issues. You don't want them doing data entry, pushing paper, updating spreadsheets or anything like that. You want them dealing with the task at hand, what they really need to do. We want them to be able to be dealing with the people as opposed to tracking down, where did that file go? How do I find this information? We want them dealing with the customers and making things the best community that it possibly can be. But we also want to be able to keep the people. So we're going to train them. We want to keep them here. So we want it to be an attractive place to work. And you want to be able to get the people who bring the skill sets. So you want Tecumseh to be known as that great place to work. That's very forward thinking. You can attract the younger workforce, the new skills that are coming in, and you need to be able to attract those. So those are all the reasons really why to go digital. We know that Tecumseh has quite a few online services already available. We found that through the service review. So I'm just going to highlight a few of these here for you. We've got a lot of online forms. You can report issues. You can pay for your dog license. You can get a burn permit online. You can go on to the Place Speak application, which I'll talk more about that in a minute too, where we can actually engage with the community, get their feedback, ask questions. A lot of really good online services. Some of the challenge, though, I will say with some of these particular forms, and that is it stops there. So it's an online form that somebody receives it, somebody in the organization receives it, and then they have to take that information, generate an email, or maybe they're generating a work order in another system, or they're picking up the phone, they're calling somebody, oh, we got this service request, what do you want to do about it? What we'd really like to see, and what a digital strategy will do, is identify the ways to make a full digital end-to-end process. So the online form gets generated, and through the system, a work order is automatically created, automatically sent to the right person who automatically receives it no matter where they are. And then they're able to do the work, they update it, and automatically goes right back to the customer. So that's what I mean about an end-to-end process. And that's something that's really important. Some of the other things that you have there, of course, is all around the council meetings. Like tonight, we're having a virtual meeting. The pandemic certainly forced certain issues like this, but it's something that's probably going to stay in some ways because we're seeing even greater engagement, people being more involved. So council meetings are certainly online. And of course, I can get my agendas, minutes online. Anybody can do it. So we're a lot more transparent in that way. And the delegation request form is available as well. So that's all very good news that we found. A couple of the other things that we're seeing is online recruitment. So I can apply for a job at the town, have that all online, bids and tenders. If I'm a company, well, we responded to an RFP originally, and it would have been through bids and tenders. So it's all managed that way. And of course, you've got the alert system. So that's very positive. So a lot of really good online services. But like I said, a lot of them are they stop there, right? So we want to see them grow a little bit more and become a little bit more end to end. So what I thought we'd do next is I'm just going to share just a couple of slides of what some of the other municipalities are doing, because I want to share with you, these are things that are really happening and things that can be done. And we're going to talk to you about what are your priorities and what are your thoughts for all of this. So just wanted to give you some inspiration maybe and a few ideas of what some others are doing. So in a nutshell, and feel free to go and look at any of these websites, of course, but what we're seeing a lot of is municipalities going mobile in a big way. So not just giving staff cell phones or smartphones or anything like that, but getting field workers. So your building inspectors, your site inspectors, enforcement officers, anything like that, anybody who's out in the field, giving them the right tools to use. So whether it's a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, whatever type of thing, giving them right device to use and access back to the network so that they can capture the data that they need in the field. They can take the photos they need, and it becomes part of the overall data environment that's being saved at the town. We're using data and analytics to inform operations and to tell stories and to make decisions. So you as council, you get more information about the different services that are being provided. So you can make decisions on what services need to be enhanced, which ones can be perhaps cut back, and how the community is responding. We know that your peers are really pushing a lot more services online. And again, the pandemic has really pushed this a lot faster than ever before, but we're seeing municipalities take up that challenge. What we're also seeing across our clients, as they move some of their services online, they are actually seeing an 80% uptake of these new services. So that's what I meant when I said earlier, people are looking for these services online. 80% is pretty remarkable. We certainly didn't see that, like 10 years ago. Other municipalities are really fostering that digital culture within. So they're encouraging staff to think digitally, to move things digital where it's appropriate. And I'm never talking about doing technology just because technology is there. What I'm talking about is doing technology where it's right. So you get people really thinking about how can technology improve the services that they're providing. It's also, municipalities are talking to their customers and designing services around their needs. We're going to talk about that a bit more in a minute too. But the days of government providing services the way government thinks it should be done are long gone. We're now listening to the customers. It's all about that customer focus again, really doing it the way they need the service in ways that make sense to them. Also has to make sense to the business, of course, but let's start doing it the way we think. We have a picture that I'm not sharing with you today, but it's showing a park and where a path has been paved. So the planners have designed it so the path goes, this way, but where people are always cutting across. And, that's not paying attention to what the customer is really looking for, right? Other municipalities are really investing, planning, and resourcing their digital transformation projects. So it's becoming a bigger deal in the organization. We're seeing departments even beyond IT. We're seeing innovation departments or through the strategic departments where they're really able to think about how can we transform our processes and our services using technology. So I mentioned digital service patterns and that sort of thing. So patterns are things that everybody does when we're doing some of these services. They're proven and they're repeatable, and of course they're reusable. So most times with any kind of service, what you're doing is you're applying for something, you're looking to get some information, you want to pay for something, you want to register, you want to tell somebody something. Typically most municipal services can be grouped into these different patterns. And this commonality really helps us to improve service delivery across all the different programs because we know the same things are happening. So again, they're very, very repeatable. The other thing we have to recognize is that not a single pattern is always happening within one process, of course, right? So some processes have several patterns. For example, registering for a recreation program, it has several patterns in place. I'm looking up something, I'm applying for something, I have to pay for it, I'm registering, that sort of thing, and then I attend, of course. But when we make these patterns repeatable again, for example, consistent payment options across all these different programs, we can ramp them up faster. They can be reintroduced and reapplied multiple times faster and faster every time. And so it's about really improving the policies and make them more flexible, really to meet the user needs. So service patterns are really important when we're talking about that customer first and that customer focus on service delivery. Here's some examples of what others have done around some of these different patterns. So booking something, the checking something. I like in Oshawa, they have a online chat, so chat version. So you can go online just like you do with your, Rogers or Bell or anybody like that. We've all done online chat. What's interesting about Oshawa is this came up out of their accessibility committee. They felt that it was an important option for the municipality to offer those customers and residents who needed a more accessible version. So they weren't able to read or see or whatever everything on the website. So by having the chat, it just made it more accessible. And of course, there's all these other options: pay for parking, apply for your building permits, all these different things. So just examples of what others are doing. I've got a few specific ones that I just wanted to highlight here. I mentioned payment and how that's a repeatable pattern, and you want to see, the same kind of payment option here. So in Georgian Bay, they've done a really nice job of that. What you do is you click on make a payment there, and you get this screen, and you can pay for just about anything through this screen. So whether you're buying, a new blue box, a green bin or whatever, or you have to buy a dog license, anything like that, you can do it through here. Even if you are actually paying an invoice that the municipality has sent, you can make the payment through here. Makes it repeatable, so and it's very consistent for the customers. Here's another example of an application. It's a product called Cloud Permit that several municipalities use. And what we like about this one, and why we highlight it, is it really highlights these patterns again, but it makes it very, very easy. It's a step-by-step process. Permit applications can be very, very complex. And we know there's a whole lot to it. So depending on the type of permit, you're going to get more information when you click on these different steps. And so it's really preparing the users for it. So it's presenting your online service in a way that works for the customer, as opposed to the way we kind of think it works, right? We think everybody understands permit applications, and nobody understands permit applications, let's face it. Next, I have the City of St. Thomas. I just highlight this one here. They offer overnight parking for various types of parking permits. This particular one is overnight parking permits. Lots of people do online payment, that sort of thing. But what they've done that's interesting here is they've attached it with their GIS or their geospatial system. So now I can point and click, and automatically it populates the correct data, the actual correct address, if you will. So for example, we get rid of things like street, whether it's spelled in full or ST or just an S or something like that. And so it makes that reporting and analysis afterwards that much easier and more available to anybody who really needs to see it. Another example here that we've seen quite a bit through the pandemic that's very interesting, I think, is scheduling appointments online. So Guelph did this actually through the pandemic to get to the Commissioner of Oaths, because of course with all the closures and everything you couldn't. So you can now go online and make an appointment, and the Commissioner will be available to you. We'll go back and forth a bit through the online service, but you're able to make these appointments. Now imagine starting to do that with your inspectors who have to come and see your construction site, or if you need to come and see you, for example, one of you want to make an appointment. So being able to do that online booking really takes it to another level of service delivery. This one here is in Richmond Hill, obviously. So Richmond Hill does a Track My Plow application. You go on the website, you can see where the snow plow is and if it's coming to my street soon. It's really popular application. A lot of people really like to see it. There's concerns obviously about it because you never know, there might be a reason the plow actually won't get to the next street, but they cover it through the website and the messaging that you see towards the left there. But what's really interesting about Richmond Hill, and why I highlight it here, is they've attached cameras to all of their trucks that are going out doing the plow. So you can actually see the road conditions. So I go online, see when the plow's about to get to my neighborhood or something, and I can even see what the conditions of the street are. It's handy before the pandemic, perhaps when I wasn't working at home and I can look at it myself. But if I was down in my office, say down in the city, and then I can see what's going on. Obviously, this particular day wasn't the best day to capture snow conditions on our cameras, but it does show the images quite clearly. And then next we have data and analytics, and being able to use the data that we're capturing out in the field. The image on the left here is just a dashboard with one municipality that's showing trends, like plow photos that they've got, where the plows are going, the number of calls they've had, the total cost of what they think those calls are, all sorts of different things. And a lot of municipalities are really getting into dashboards for that transparency, but also accountability to the constituents, really sharing what it is that municipal staff are doing, what the projects are that are being worked on. Then the one on the right is a heat map, and you may have seen this one before. It was from the City of London, Ontario, their fire department. And it's really a cool idea here. What they've done is the fire prevention officers took a look at this heat map, and the heat map is of all the residential fires happening in this particular area of the city. And you can see the literal hot spots there, the red, is where there's a lot of residential fires are happening. So what fire prevention did was they really targeted their marketing and their education campaigns to those specific areas. So they weren't spending as much time in the outlying areas. They were really focused on these hotspots. And they actually are reporting that they have reduced residential fires by 50%. By being able to put this kind of focus and attention on these particular areas. Now that's really significant, and that's really using data in a very positive way. So that's the end of my sharing of these digital opportunities. And I'm wondering if they've inspired you. And I'd like to open it up and ask Council if you have any ideas for opportunities for Tecumseh that you would like to see happen. And we'll just talk through these. I'm not too sure, Mayor, if you want to call on people or if people just raise their hands, how to really do this. We're going to take notes of it so that we can refer back to them later and talk to you through it.
Okay, I'll just I'll thank you, Susan, for for the in-depth report. But I'll certainly give an opportunity for council to weigh in, and not only council as well, but also administration. And it's because at the end of the day, they're dealing with the general public on a daily basis, minute by minute basis too. So it's always good to as council to hear from them as well. So members of council, I'll certainly open it up to you for certainly any questions or certainly comments. And so, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Susan and Andy, for the presentation this evening. My question is more of a general one in terms of what support is being planned, if any, for the staff. This is probably like in terms of the end product that the public will see on the computer. However, you've got your day-to-day staff that needs to be well versed and understand all of this. Who's responsible? Is it going to be coming out of the Sean's department that's going to go oversee this, or is this going to be training cross departmental so that they're all aware of all these new things that could be put in place that that they'll be able to explain, so that when the public does call, they'll be able to understand it as well for them to use it as a user. So what kind of support for staff is there in doing something like this?
Sure.
Do you want to tackle that, Susan? Or
Oh, okay. If you want, sure. Go ahead.
I'll start off, and then Susan can round it out. But yeah, through your worship to the Deputy Mayor. So part of this digital strategy is actually doing business optimization reviews on various aspects of what we do here at the town. So as Susan had mentioned in her presentation, even though somebody fills out a form online to get it to the end product, and the long-term plan is to need less manual labor from staff to do that. But with that, to your point, in all of these automated processes, there is an element of training that will be involved. And part of our new model with customer service, et cetera, will be a more centralized approach and more consistent delivery. of these various opportunities for the town. So I guess it'd be more to come on that, but that's definitely a piece of the puzzle here that'll come into play with the rest of this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I agree. It is important that that is part of it. And, you know, I assume that it would be, but I just, you know, when you see something like this, that there is a plan, and also that there's budget money allocated for that, so that, you know, you don't have to skip out on that part because it wasn't in the budget. So I think it's important part and parcel with unveiling this. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor, I'd like to add to it. We've got a bit more of our presentation to share with you, Deputy Mayor. So we're just at the point now where we want to get some feedback from you. I'm going to talk to the rest of the work plan, a couple of the next steps in that once we finish our discussion. So we'll certainly give you a bit more information on how we're going to be wrapping this whole thing all together for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Jobin.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Susan. So a couple of things that promptly came to my concern was our aging community members, our seniors who are not tech savvy. For example, just this week, I had a call from a senior resident who lives alone. She didn't receive her invoice to her payment for her security that the policing security process through the town that you make payment. And so because we already don't have her in electronic process, she is still waiting on her, or she's received her paper form now, but because she's not savvy. So those types of things concern me. When we talk about training our staff, we would also having to be training our constituents. Now in my area, the rural area, when this does come into play, I guess I'm thinking of like how to service them. Would there be a kiosk provided for a short term? Say when people have to learn how to do a payment process or something, would we set up a little kiosk out maybe at the fire hall, Station 2, so they could even just learn how to make a payment or pay taxes? That kind of thing just draws me right away. And then again, the cost, even when we talk about snow plows and cameras, there's obviously a cost to all these new advancements. So those things are already just little red lights coming up for me. Thank you.
I agree, Councillor, on all the points obviously you've made there. I think with the senior population, we know that they are rapidly changing. They are getting more and more online as more and more services are, and they are getting more engaged. And there are statistics certainly that prove that. Notwithstanding, like I said, there's always people who are not going to go through a technology. And as local government, certainly it's our responsibility to make sure that they still have fair and equitable access to services. It's really important whenever we do any kind of work around digital services or any kind of technology that we really consider that multi-channel approach. Yeah, it might be cheaper to deliver services over the web, but we have to be able to accommodate people who aren't able to do that or are not willing even to do that. So it's about taking advantage where we can of the cost savings so we can apply the additional expenses, if you will, to those other service delivery channels and making sure that people do get all the full service that they do require. That's a critical part of any digital strategy, and we certainly will take that into account. And the costs, you're absolutely right. We will do our best to attach costs where we may. We will do our best to be sure to attach the benefits and potential for either savings or cost avoidance as we do it, so that the town is able to make your best decisions on how you want to move forward with these different projects.
Thank you.
Councilor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to our delegations. Thank you so much for the presentation. You know, the use of technology is something that I'm maybe too involved with. Usually I live tweet.
I already explained that to them.
And yeah, you know what? It's interesting. We've seen a bit of an evolution. You know, we formerly had our app, our web app, which I think in some ways was ahead of time, because a lot of apps are going in the direction that our original app had, not device specific. But is through HTML5 and different protocols like that. So I think you know, in some ways we've been ahead of the curve. In other ways, I'd say you know, we've got the right ingredients, but maybe there's still some work with our partners. And I think specifically of Essex County, we're we all share on with eScribe. We all share on the archives for the minutes and the agendas and bylaws, et cetera. And I'd wonder, and I'd like to get your opinion as to whether there's strength in numbers on this, where if we're all using the same platforms and the same databases, if this is something that ought to be, or has a better end result for our residents if we go together with several other municipalities who have the same systems. Just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yes, Councillor, we're huge proponents of sharing and of partnerships and of all those opportunities. And we've actually worked with a number of clients to help them set up their shared services agreements and like service level agreements that they might have, but also the vendor negotiations. Some vendors are very agreeable to these kind of shared services. You see a number of them that are out there. Some are a little bit stickier when it comes to licensing costs and that, but it's always worth a conversation. And I think it's best if you can actually share some of these solutions and applications with especially your neighbors. Our customers, if you will, they don't only do business with us, they go outside of the municipal jurisdiction. So being able to start to share that data and get a really good understanding of how our customers are using the different systems in the different jurisdictions and bringing it together, I think just brings a more full service that we can offer to residents. So I think shared services and multi-use agreements, that sort of thing, are absolutely the way we have to go.
Okay, thank you. And a follow-up, Chair or Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. So one item that I've found, especially in the last couple of years, is the desire of our residents to engage on service requests. But I find, it's pretty easy to tag someone on Facebook, and maybe a bit more challenging to go over to our site, find the link, and then input the service request directly. And I haven't seen this in practice so far, but I think, certainly I'll say from my standpoint, I would love to be able to pivot people to a single click option, so that instead of kind of tagging me on a post and saying, well, what is this, that we could connect them to an add-on or some sort of tool where they either get a chat function or with a live person if it's between certain hours, or even if there's a form like a radio button form that is populated within those social media platforms, that they could connect with the service request and maybe take a picture and shoot it off as part of their post, their engagement. Now I'm not necessarily convinced Facebook, for example, will last forever. I think video is going to become more and more important as time goes on. But I do think it feels as if there's a drift away from HTML and more towards that that social media atmosphere, and I wonder if there's opportunity to be ahead of the curve on that through the development of tools that go in those specific platforms.
All good points. So what we're doing right now is we're taking notes of all of these kinds of suggestions as part of the potential digital opportunities. And what I'd like to do is at the end of our conversation, and certainly when we come back to council at a later date, to hopefully provide solutions on how this all can come together. I think you're right. It needs to be that kind of one stop. We don't want to provide too many different ways that people have to come to interact with the municipality. It's got to be simple. And even if they can come through their smartphone or their tablet or whatever device might be in existence in a couple of years type of thing, it should be that same kind of feel for everybody, right? And that consistency again. And that's what we're really hoping to be able to build solutions that can be sustainable and also scalable. And I think that's really important. But the ideas you brought forth, Councillor, are amazing. So like I said, we're documenting all of these as part of this particular page of conversation. We do have a couple more questions that we're going to put to council. So a bit more information will come out there for sure. Thank you for that.
I just want to pick up from Councillor Dowie's as well, is that, we can't miss the importance, because we talked about customer service. If somebody was to come in and whether it's a planning issue, for example, we'll use a planning issue, subdivision, or even one home, there's multi research that has to be done. And then there's multiple agencies that deal with the end result. So to Councillor Dowie's point, for example, IRCA has to be a part of the process. The upper level of government, which is the county, and then the town of Tecumseh, for example. And if it's on the border with an adjacent municipality, so there's a lot of work to be done. So you could have the app or the platform perfect for a one item search to a client or to a resident, when in fact then you have to go through all the other jurisdictions, floodplains, there's the environmental assessments, all of that stuff. So to Andrew's point, or Councillor Dowie's point, I think it's really, really important that there's not like a multitude of different, we don't want to make it complex, right? We want to simplify. That's the whole object, is to simplify and become more efficient and cost effective. So I think
That's the goal.
so that point I think is really critical, because in particular for us, and even this, a single tier municipality, they have outside jurisdictions that they have to partner with, in terms of many of the requests that are asked upon our residents. It could be a public health issue, it could be conservation issue. But to be able to access that in a timely fashion, and also for our own staff who have to do the work, right?
You're absolutely right, Mayor. That's critical. And that's why I said earlier about, partnering with your neighbors, with the other agencies and that. At the very least, you want to have data standards put into place so that data can easily be shared across the different organizations, at the very least. What we're seeing, I'll give an example of in York Region, actually. The upper tier is building, and Andy might be able to give a bit more information on it. I can't remember exactly how involved you've been in that one, Andy, but the upper tier is building a development application system to track and manage all development applications, but they're partnering with the lower tiers to build that application. So both the lower tier and the upper tier are going to use the same system. So data travels seamlessly through the different organizations using the same systems. But they're also partnering with the local conservation area and of course, York Region Health and that are all having access to the exact same system, all being built on the exact same data. They already share their GIS data throughout the region. So it's just building on that even more. So that's an example of exactly what you're talking about being developed so that it makes it that much easier. And their goal, of course, is at some point, the developers themselves will have digital access to all of these all of this data and applications as well. They can already submit their applications online, but being able to track the status and make comments all online is all being worked on right now. So it is happening, and it's very cool and it's very complex. But you're absolutely right. It has to happen.
Sorry, I just didn't want to lose my train of thought there, Councillor Altenhoff. I just wanted to pick up from Councillor Dowd. So go ahead, Councillor Altenhoff.
No, thank you, Your Worship. And through you, again, to both Susan and Andy, thank you for your presentation. And I would like to echo kind of what the Mayor, Councillor Dowie's indicated. We don't want to have what I'll refer to as any discontinuities between, a digital system and, whatever our current hard copy or paper system, whatever we want to refer to it as, whether it be within our own corporation or, when we have to reach out to other bodies. So I think that's really important, and we have to, I guess the point, wisely implement digital opportunities so that we ensure they're self-contained and will not cause, these additional, what I'll refer to as discontinuity communications between the digital world and the non-digital world. I think something that's very important as well, and I'm echoing Councillor Jobin's point on some of our residents, being again more so non-digital. We have to acknowledge them, and perhaps we have a transition. Or I would also say, why don't we use the digital technology to help us see through the transitions as we can kind of progress and recognize that, hey, if we can monitor again in the digital realm or the virtual realm, how many people are paying their taxes, non-paper based. And if it's 100%, then we know we can move completely digital on that front. As a quick example, use and exploit the digital technologies really to our advantage. And I think that's quite important. But we have to be aware that we do have a population which may not want to opt to that digital world yet, but we can transition them into that. I really think it's important, the human engagement side to the digital world. Councillor Dowie referred to, a few clicks to get you here or there. My point would be, why doesn't a resident just say, I want to see bylaw 2002-17, and it can come up on your screen, or your smartphone, or whatever it is. So we really need to be exploiting the full tools and full level of technology. And the reality is that digital world is transforming every day. So anything we implement has to have something that will also have that continuous improvement or the continuous evolution. I think that's quite important. I try to list a few things that I think are very good opportunities here. Certainly the services, which I think we're already acting on for both our residents and businesses. But I also believe monitoring. And I know we are already doing that on some points, rainfall, for example, but we could do a lot better, I believe, on monitoring. And of course, it's also going to require perhaps some investments. If we wanted to monitor, then that also means we have to put devices in place to do observations. And then we have to feed that into the digital world and then get information. But we know that in the long run, that can also save us tremendously on costs. And can help what I refer to again as another opportunity, optimization studies, to help us ensure that we're running or looking at our municipality the best possible way we can. As well, another point that I raised is in the digital world is the use of kind of automated reporting and communications. We even see today, the reports we see, they're all PDFs. And those are great, but I believe that the future will be something far more interactive, perhaps something that you would see out of a Marvel movie where, people will just be kind of swapping the pages or moving the pages themselves. If they want to get to another bylaw, they're just going to say, want to see this bylaw, please show it to me. And information is available to them so incredibly quick. Maybe I'm looking kind of out a bit ambitiously, but I believe we do have to be ambitious because there's a lot of great opportunities for us here. And let's not sell, our municipality or our neighboring municipality short. Let's do our best. Let's exploit the tools. I hate to say it, in 5 years from now, these tools will be out of date, and we'll be looking for new tech, or we'll be having new technologies. And I use it as a great example, just the USB connections. Now we're at some pretty powerful transfer rates with USB. Look back just 5-10 years ago, they were nowhere near what they are now. So I think we have to have something which has continuous improvement. And I don't want to throw out the abbreviation of AI, but I really think it's warranted here, where we can exploit the knowledge of the digital world to help give us some too. Anyways, I apologize. It's a loaded question. I could probably go on for another 15 minutes, but thank you very much.
I don't even know if I remember what the question was. But I think, Councillor, you're right. We have to look to the future. That's definitely what it's all about. I've been trying to remember, I was reading an article or a case study, I guess. Some municipality may have been Calgary, but don't quote me on that one. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, they were testing with Google to use Alexa to do just that. Embed Alexa on the website so that people could just say, show me the bylaw for fences, and it comes up, right, which was pretty cool and pretty fascinating. All your points are exactly right. Again, we're documenting these. They're going to inform us as we move forward. That's the best that I can say right now. What we want to do is Sean and his team and the organization really doing a great job of building all those really strong foundations for technology, making sure that it is stable, secure, accessible, that sort of thing. So now we are looking at this next level of what digital services can be offered. And then that's when we start really being able to create opportunities for things like the artificial intelligence or AI, for putting the smart sensors in place and being able to really collect that data and use it in a way that's meaningful to the organization. I think it's really important, and to hear that sort of direction coming from council is very aspirational, and I think it's something that will help us really build this plan. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And your worship, if you don't mind, sorry, I know I went on, but Susan, you had a good point about actually protection of the corporation as well.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if we can integrate intelligence into the digital system, so that, because it thinks, you know, the frequencies of the CPUs are, and memory is far greater than the frequency of any human mind. But if that can be thinking ahead on you know, how I can protect my system better, that's very important for us. Anyways, thank you very much. I appreciate those comments.
All right, thank you. Councillor Houston, okay. What do you?
Yep, thank you, Your
I was in the
Worship.
middle of the screen. You're bouncing around.
Well, yeah, any of the comments I was going to make, you know, we're certainly covered here. You know, the only one I'll make is, you know, I think the sky is the limit, you know, for us on, you know, what opportunities we have before us. Certainly exciting time, and happy to, you know, be here and be part of it. So looking forward to the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, there's a few points that I want to bring up, and I look at it in for me, 3 points to look at. Number one is improving the services to our residents. The other is also, and I think you managed to get a part of what I was trying to say, Councillor Allenhoff, is the security of the municipality and protection on good old joint and several liability. You showed in your slide just on the snowplow or truck from Public Works with a dash cam and part of the GPS. I'll tell you, you can't ask for a better tool if you're you know, Jeffrey Feiger comes to the town and says, you know, we're going to sue you because you did this or whatever. So I mean, even that small piece of technology provides security, and then if you can secure your documents, that's a real bonus. And the final one is, what are you projecting to the outside world, so to speak? And to me, that's an economic development bonus, because it shows folks that you're a municipality that's extremely proactive, and you know, for many of them, time is money. And so I look at that as 3 real opportunities to benefit the municipality in that. And I must say, Sean Firth, who does not shy away from looking at new ways and means of technology uses, introduce a lot of process, not only for us, but for the county and so forth. So we got the right individual here working with yourselves to certainly bring that forward. The other one on the senior piece as well is that I'll give you 2 great examples. And one of them is a personal, it's my mother-in-law. Did not own any type of phone, did not have a computer, did not have an iPhone, iPad, never utilized any of that. My father-in-law did everything. He passed away, and at age of 81, bought her first iPhone. She has a Twitter account. She has a Facebook account. She has an iPad. She does online baking. Everything is done digitally. She's 87 years old. And she puts me to shame, and many others. So as you know, her comments to me and others, if I can learn, anybody else can, and so forth. So that's one side of it. And adaptability, for some, they can. The other one is that I have a neighbor who does not own a iPhone. It's just basically a landline at home and nothing. So whenever he needs to get online or order something, what does he do? Knocks on our door and says, you know, that Amazon thing or whatever, and can you get me this and so forth. So although he does not own not even a flip phone or nothing, I'm trying to get him to buy a flip phone, you know, for emergency and nothing. And he didn't want nothing to do with it. And so forth. So there are some out there that are still managing. So to the point that Councillor Jobin brought forward, and also Councillor Alna, there are some, the adaptability, you know, we have to always keep in mind that there are some that, you know, until that generation moves on, there's going to be certainly some difficulty there. So maybe ways, I don't know, not that you want to add more work to staff and so forth, but you know, a you know, digital 101, especially for seniors. Maybe that's something, you know, for the Parks Department or something, maybe getting a grant, you know, dealing with seniors within the community, and how to adapt to, you know, the new technology and so forth. So those are, you know, certainly my comments that I wanted to bring forward. But again, you know, 81, not even owning a phone, and now it's basically it's just a remarkable in a short period of time, the adaptability and so forth from them. But there's some really advantages for the municipality to really move to that next level.
Okay, so this is all excellent feedback and really do appreciate it. I've got a couple more slides that I do want to share with you here. What I heard here is, just to summarize, and like I said, Andy's got the notes. We'll share that with you in a minute. Definitely take a look at the seniors. How can we help them through this transition, but also help them to continue to get the services that they need? And not just the seniors, but all those non-digital residents that we really, and customers really, that we do have in the community, that we want to make sure that we address those. So that really does mean that multi-channel approach to service delivery, continuing through with all of that. We also talked about what I'm calling and summarizing as open standards for all of our systems so that we can share it with our neighbors, with our other partnering agencies, anything like that. If we can't do a direct partnership, we want to make sure that things are open so that it is more easily shared. Heard a lot, you're looking for the future. Absolutely. So we want to build a sustainable but scalable system and technology environment that can grow with whatever the future is going to bring for technology. Other things, it's all about improving customer service. I'm going to ask you about priorities in a minute, so I'm already made note of these: security, protection, and the economic development aspect. You know, there's a number of examples. Stratford is a really good example of a city who has leveraged technology and really has boosted their economic development growth far beyond, you know, the Shakespeare Festival type of thing. The next slide is, I'm going to ask you, are we offering the services online that our community wants? I'm wondering if any of you have heard from your residents or constituents about online services that should be available that haven't been, if anybody's mentioned that to you. And just while you ponder that for just a minute, oh, okay, we'll just go, if we've got comments right now, let's go for it.
Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, the one that I hear often is the ability to look back at records. So, you know, for example, your old, even though Essex Power's got its water bill, but, you know, how about like just the access to maybe your property information, your old permits, et cetera, having it as a one-touch sort of consultation. That's been an ask. I'm not aware of other municipalities that provide that though, because of, you know, obviously there are some files that may need to be interpreted. So maybe it's not a good one, but it's one that's come up. The recreational booking, which we already have in place, is one that certainly I have had the opportunity to forward on. The ability to virtually send a service request. I mean, we have it on the website, but it's several links through. So that's one. Transit data and use of Google data and geospatial for the creation of maps has been one that's come my way. And even just the ability to the increased ability to pay online and to have that portal, whether it be through a bank or through our website, but just that ability to go paperless as much as humanly possible and have access to records. I think that's the generic ask that I've received, if I could describe them all succinctly.
That's great. Thank you very much. All excellent ideas. And again, we've made note of them, so we'll be sure to delve deeper into any of those. Are there any other requests that people hear?
Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, to be honest with you, nothing really comes to mind, but maybe I can present or better answer this question through the help of administration. I'll maybe ask through the mayor to administration, do we have a listing of maybe the top 5 or top 10 service requests that come through our through the corporation, and are those online?
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Altenhoff. Yes, so as you know, we logged quite a few. I think we had 2,000 or 3,000 last year service requests in City Works for all the various issues, that from parks to potholes to any bylaw infractions, that kind of thing. But to your question, is that available to the public? No. Could we make it? Yes, because it does automatically generate kind of a dashboard and some nice pie charts and dissects the data for that. So that might be something we can look at for sure. It's a good suggestion.
And as a follow-up, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Yeah, and if I'm understanding you correctly there, Mr. Firth, yeah, I appreciate having that data, but I'm, and having it available, I guess, is nice, but just to ensure that we have whatever, again, those top 10 or top services, if they're being executed by a phone call, or if they're being, or I'll say initiated by a phone call, or if they're being initiated by, perhaps some web-based, URL or something. I'm just trying to distill the data, I guess, so that we can get a better vision or understanding of how the communications are coming in. And, we may find perhaps in some instances, it's preferred to communicate via telephone rather than online, perhaps for now. But again, as technology moves forward, the fact, with the City Works and so forth, it does make sense for it to be online because then, something can be generated promptly, almost immediately, and move forward through the system. So anyways, I'm sorry, I guess I'm asking administration for their input on that, but I guess have admin speak with our consultants, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
What I will suggest, Councillor, is hold that thought for just a minute. Okay, we're going to share with you a couple of things that we're going to be doing next. That's going to answer that question very specifically.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So you must have a crystal ball, Councillor Altenhoff.
I am not a mind reader. If I was, oh boy, the world would be better.
So in the interest of time, because I realize we're about to go over time, so I want to keep moving just a little bit more. We have gone out to the communities quite a bit, and this is a list of the top 10 requests that we get kind of generally, if you will, from a variety of different communities. So some of the things you've already talked about as we discussed opportunities, things like access to more information, make it easier access, reporting the problem, getting updates, payments, all that sort of thing. So no real surprise here. But what we are going to do with this particular project is we are engaging with the community. We are going out to the community through the Place Speak application. We're asking them for their feedback. There's a survey they can answer, and we're asking questions, Councillor Altenhoff, just as you said, how do you prefer to deal with us? Do you want to come in through the website, by email, in person, whatever? So we're trying to find out that information, and hopefully we get a good response there. We're also going to be having an open house, Sean, January 26th, right? I think it's January 26th.
The 27th at 6:30.
So close.
They can,
Well, the good news, you'll be early, Susan.
Right? Thank you, Sean. So that'll be an opportunity to interact just like this. You know, I'll be asking questions. We'll have gotten a lot of the survey results by then, or be able to drill down and ask very specifically from the community, those who participate, you know, do you have any other ideas? And what exactly do you mean by this? One example I can give you is with another municipality recently, we did this. And the number one thing was to be able to register for recreation programs online. They've been able to do it for years. So why did this come up as number one across, you know, a really good survey? And when the open house, we were able to ask, and what they told us, it's really important to us. We don't want to lose it. Please don't take it away. Okay, we're not going to touch it, right? But it was just that opportunity for that interaction. We're also going to be asking staff. During the IT service review, we talked a lot with staff. And we interacted with them a lot. We've got a lot of feedback, and we're bringing that forward. That's one advantage to us being able to carry on with this work, is we do have that body of knowledge and our interview notes, if you will. But we're asking them again if they have more ideas. You know, have we been able to spark even greater interest? So we're going to be doing quite a bit of engagement with the community and with staff to get even more ideas. We're just starting with you, and that's why we wanted to have these conversations. So next, we're gonna wanted to know if you had any very specific priorities. Andy, I don't know if you wanted to switch over to your screen now, or should we just keep going this way in the interest of time?
I was going to suggest, in the interest of time, if everybody's in agreement, we continue this way, and then I can share what I've got at the end so everybody sees that as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So when we talk about priorities, the mayor already mentioned a few. Priority is to improve services to our customers, security and protection of town assets, certainly. Projecting to the outside, we want to project that professional forward-facing image, like that smart city type thing. Wondering if there's any other priorities that council might have.
Go ahead, Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And I think maybe this point was articulated earlier. Susan, I don't know if you mentioned it though. Again, that engagement between, you know, I say the human digital engagement, in order for people to use it, it must be one that's quite nice. You know, and again, to what the mayor indicated about, you know, his relatives being able to pick up a phone and use it. The reason why that is there is because of that ease of human digital interaction and engagement. If it was cumbersome and complicated and you needed a PhD in rocket science to figure it out, we know that people are not going to accept it. So I think it needs to be a good priority that the ease of kind of that human digital engagement is, I don't want to say it seamless, but is very smooth, and the understanding between the human and the digital world is quite easy to do.
Yes, and I want to address that very quickly here. As part of this particular project, we're doing a detailed review of a few of the town's processes right now. And not only are we looking at those through a digital lens to see if there's opportunities for that digitization, but we're looking at it through what we call it, well, we don't call it, but it's a good service review. And we follow a book, the author is Lou Downs, and she's written a book called Good Services. And she highlights critical components of what makes a good service. And it really is all about, and we'll be talking with the staff about this quite a bit more through this process, but what defines a good service? How do we make sure it's a good service? So it's not just about you certainly don't want to digitize a bad service. So how do we make it a good service and then digitize it? So you're absolutely right, Councillor. That's such a critical component of it. And I hadn't really mentioned it through this presentation, but rest assured that it's a major part of this entire project.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have the deputy mayor has his hand up. So
Oh, did he? Oh, sorry. No, I'm not, sorry, yeah. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think another council priority, I think it's kind of already said in terms of being sustainable when we do and enact and put things in place. As technology does change every month or every 12 to 18 months, you know that we have to stay on top of it. So as a priority for myself, and I know council, I want to see something in future year budgets where we maintain what we have, enhance and keep improving, so that we have to have money, serious dollars in the future budgets, so that we can not only continue but sustain what we have moving.
absolutely. I've mentioned the word sustainability and scalability a few times today. That's got to be a foundational part of any digital strategy, that we can maintain it and we can grow it and transform it as needed, really. So you're absolutely right, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for that. Okay. I got one last question for you. What is your vision for digital for the future Tecumseh? And I'm just looking for one word. I mean, it can be fun, you know, like a word I think of as innovative, maybe efficient. I'm wondering if we can go around the table type of thing, and you can all kind of share a word that you think defines your vision of Tecumseh as we in the context of a digital strategy, or maybe even not. Mayor, can we start with you?
Accuracy.
Accuracy. Excellent. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, got the title.
Thinking of the future, you know, use the analogy of the game Fortnite, some type of interactive feature where residents can interact with each other, just logging in and whether it be talking about a certain topic, sports, recreational service, or a planning application that's coming forward. You know, as you know, with the pandemic, a lot of people haven't been able to get around or can get around or gather, but having an interactive, and I think it's like play speak, but more interactive, kind of a notch above something like that.
That's a very cool idea. I love it. I was working with another client, and one of the things that came up during the pandemic, apparently, because of all the bylaw enforcement issues going on, what they did was they set up virtual meetings with the bylaw officers. And so people could actually go online and ask the bylaw officers directly questions and that sort of thing about the whole thing. Turns out the public loved it so much, they've asked a number of times, can we do that with more staff? You know, they want to talk to, you know, the building inspectors or the recreation staff who sets up the programs. What a cool idea, right? Never would have thought of it outside of the pandemic, perhaps. So thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. That's great.
Yeah.
Interactive.
Yeah, it builds that relationship with other town staff, you know, like even ourselves, we meet, you know, now we haven't done it, but when we meet once a year, I know the council cooks the hot dogs, and, you know, we got all the public works and parks, they come, there's people that we've never actually seen, we actually get to meet them and talk to them. So having that for the public to talk to someone in building, all of a sudden now they feel that, you know, it's not just the mayor and council, that they can reach out to the administrative staff and the employees. So
great. So important. Thank you very much. Who'd like to go next? Councillor Dowd, sorry, Mayor. I'm taking over your job.
Through you, your worship, you know, my one word would be service, bar none.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would say intuitive.
Ah, like it.
Councillor Alton.
I apologize for being an academic. I can't put it all into one word, but I would continuous evolvement for the betterment of the municipality, residents, businesses.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Councillor Jobin.
I can't think of anything. I would have to say responsive.
Nice.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. That's great. Okay, is that everybody there? Looks like, yep. Okay, thank you. So just to summarize all of this, we know that the demand for digital services is there from your customers. We hear it all the time. We see it all the time. We need to really strive for government for that digital age. A long time ago, I gave you a presentation and I talked about that blockbuster service and the Netflix customer type thing. So we really have to recognize that. Your peers are certainly pushing more and more services online with the uptake of these digital services trending around 80%, which is significant. I remember when municipalities were first putting in the online program, recreation program registration, we were super happy when you got a 20% uptake. Now it's easily 80% plus. If you're reliant on paper, visits to the office, and your staff spend too much time entering information in multiple places, you're not digital. So we've got that concern right now to come see in some of the places. We've talked about that, how we don't have full end-to-end digital workflows, so we want to fix that. And digital really is more than just the technology. As we've talked all today, you know, the human engagement, that sort of thing, it really does require that cultural change, and it requires leadership from both council, but also the staff leadership as well. So we'll be working with staff quite a bit on that. Just as far as next steps, this is a big thing. You really don't have to look too much at it, but we've got a lot of things that we're going through. We're just right now in the engagement phase of the very first phase, digital discovery there. We're working on a couple of those process reviews right now, as I mentioned. As part of all of this, as the councillor asked earlier, here's where I asked you to hold tight. As we develop this roadmap with the priorities and the appropriate I'm not going to be able to say it, sequencing with this MT and you know the vision and the principles, we are also going to put into place the timing for all of these projects, because there will be some prerequisites, that sort of thing, but the budget required to do so, the resources required to do so, and if there are any other impacts, we'll be able to bring those into this final plan. And then finally, the most important piece for you at this point, we will be coming back to you with this final report so that you can actually see that and make further comments on it. And we hope to get your full approval and endorsement for this project. And
You know,
that's really it.
You know, talk about one word. Councillor Toniel's not here. Obviously, he's recovering from surgery, but I guess we'll throw one in for him. And one that I thought as well is that comes to mind as we move forward: adaptability.
Oh, perfect. Yes, of course. We'll accredit. Well, I'm not putting any names.
So we'll give credit to Councillor Toniel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I want to say thank you very much for all of this feedback. This is awesome. I don't know if anybody has any other comments or questions that they want to ask now. No.
Yeah, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have some closing remarks. I don't know if Andy wanted to share his screen to just show all the good work he's done in the last hour-ish, and then like Susan
That's
said,
a good idea.
We'd be compiling this for the final report, and then just a final comment. Thank you.
Great. So as everybody's been talking, I can't talk and write at the same time. So I've been in the background, just sort of taking everything down. So we have all this information, Sean has it, and I'll make sure we see how we can share this out or get all this information back together related to the different questions that everybody had, and where we, so we've sort of gathered it all within here right now. I'm trying to let everybody see, but on the same token, I know that if I scroll too quickly here, you know, it just becomes an eyesore in different ways. But all the information, all the comments that people have provided on these different questions have all been captured in here. I did also put a little area over to the side just as a parking lot, because until we finished our conversation, I wanted to see where it goes. And it goes really back to one of the very first questions about what support is being prepared for staff. So we'll work that back in, but just rest assured, even with the video and everything we've got tonight, we've also got a capture of everybody's comments in here.
Thanks, Andy.
Excellent. Councillor Ottenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And I don't mean to be a downer here, but I'm an engineer, so I'm going to ask the question. But what happens if the digital system fails? You know, there's a number of examples that we've all seen in our lifetime where it fails, and then all of a sudden everyone throws their hands up in the air and say, well, what do we do now? So I think if we can also, sorry, because I brought this point to my mind a little bit later, but I wanted to say it before we leave, contingency. You know, if something does go wrong, and inevitably it will, whatever, you know, whatever significance it is, let's always have, redundancy, contingency, whatever. When you're flying in an airplane, rest assured that there's probably 3 systems that got to fail before you're really in trouble. So there's that redundancy and that assurance that, okay, it's pretty tough, and this system is going to take quite a bit of big shot before it comes down. Just a point I wanted to raise.
Yep.
Perhaps that's on the security as well, but something that's important. I think.
All right, so in other words, Plan B.
Sean, did you want to answer this?
Sure. So yeah, like we, parallel to this project, we're with other members of the Perry Group, we're working on the Business Continuity Disaster Recovery Plan. And the first part of that process was conducted by all the departments last fall, was going through a business impact analysis. And for each component of their business that they do within their department, how do they do it now? How long could they be without it? And what's Plan B? So all that's going to be rolled into this document, and there's a portal with all the how-to. So yeah, it's something that's always been on a burner to do. And finally, it's on the front burner this year, again, in parallel at the same time as this, because we also got the grant funding for that project. But you're absolutely right, a very important, a very important piece of all of this, because if all of this fails, then what's Plan B? So yeah, we're working on that, and we'll be reporting back to council on the outcome of that project as well.
That's good. That's why you always carry, a backup goalie and a backup quarterback.
So that's everything from council and from Susan and Andy. Again, thank you for your time this evening, your worship and members of council. This council, since amalgamation, has always been extremely supportive of technology. I've never had to ask twice for any support or assistance or resources with respect to technology. You lay down the gauntlet, you challenge us continually to do better, and not that we're bleeding edge, but we're close to it here in Tecumseh, and we continue to do so. And that can't be done without the support from our councils over the years. So again, thank you. Thank you for that. And if I could ask a favor, as I indicated to council last night, we are in January now doing this consultation piece. So tonight was with council. We will be doing the Please Speak with the public, and then the virtual webinar on the 27th, in addition to staff. So we've socialized it on our social media channels last night, and I know all of you have many followers on yours. So I respectfully ask that if you can retweet and reshare on your channels and get more uptake from the community. It's kind of ominous when you hear digital strategy. We tried to give it a cute name with Tech Online, just to try and get people's heads around what this all means. So basically, at the end of the day, we're asking for them to help us, help them, help us, help us, help them. One of those. And without the public engagement piece, it's a very important part of this consultation. So I appreciate council's support in promoting that as well. So with and Susan and Andy had anything else? Thank you, Your Worship.
No, I think you make an excellent point. When I made the reference about economic development, I really believe that this is a kind of a foundational piece. And I think we need to reach out to CAMI, reach out to the our BIA, our business community as well, because obviously they are our partners and are often conversing with us, and I think it's important for us to reach out to not only our residents, but our commercial and certainly our industrial partners. And with that, I want to, and on behalf of council as well, want to thank Sean as the lead for the corporation, and certainly to both Susan and Andy. It's been a pleasure one-on-one with you, as well as tonight. I think this is I think we could have gone another hour, 2 hours on this, but I think a lot has been accomplished to date, but I'm really excited about what the finished product's going to look like, and to introduce this to all of our ratepayers in the community. That certainly looking forward to building Tecumseh. I guess my mandate's always been, we don't necessarily have to be the biggest, but we should strive to be the best. So kudos to council over the years. I've always, just to echo Sean's message, and I certainly appreciate it in that regards, but you need to be progressive in the community. If you don't, somebody's going to take their business elsewhere. And so it's always important for us to not only provide for the residents that are here now, but also be prepared for those who want to be part of our community. And so this is a wonderful exercise. And then soon we're starting to put the meat on the bone, and looking forward to the delivery in the near future. So with that, I bid you good night, and thank you both, Susan and Andy, and looking forward to meeting up again with a little bit more meat on the bone, and then we'll move on from there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mayor, and all council as well.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, members of council, could I have a motion to receive the presentation by our delegation? Moved by Councilor Dowie, Deputy Mayor Bichetti, support on the motion. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that is carried. And there's no communications to deal with or further reports. And so our evening's work is completed, and adjournment is now in order. Councilor Ottenhoff move, Councilor Houston support. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Again, I want to thank you, members of council, administration, those who are viewing from the comforts of home. I guess the message would be, take part. This is the future of your community. So again, I bid you good night, stay safe, and until we meet again on the 26th.